Cheers from Georgia, everyone. We're going to talk today about CFC rules, Controlled Foreign Companies rules. It's not always called that everywhere in the world. For example, in Canada, they call it the Controlled Foreign Affiliate, but same difference. What are Controlled Foreign Companies rules? By the way, to start off with, a lot of people confuse CFC and CMC rules. So they'll say, oh, the Controlled Foreign Companies rules, when really they're talking about the management and control rules, or they'll think, oh no, these don't apply because they're both. You have to pay attention to management and control rules and Controlled Foreign Companies rules. Anyway, and of course, not every country has management and control rules, and not every country has Controlled Foreign Companies rules. So if you're wondering, give us a call. Happy to go over it with you. All right, so CFC rules basically operate on this premise. In the world, local countries want their local businesses to go out and expand internationally. All right, they want them to succeed. For example, the US wants Ford to go and sell in other countries because that's good for the US, right? It creates more sales for a US company, it creates jobs, it brings money back, it expands the American brands, so on and so forth. And the alternative, of course, is, hey, they're gonna end up buying Volkswagen or Audi or Toyota, which is not good for America, right? So they want them to go out and expand. And what would happen is, say a US company goes and sells in Germany or Japan, right? If they do that, now what if they had to, well, they're gonna have to pay tax probably in Germany or Japan, depending on how it goes, but usually that's gonna be the case. Well, if they had to pay tax in, say, Germany and the US, that would put them at a disadvantage compared to German companies. Or if they had to pay tax in Japan and the US, it would put them at a disadvantage compared to Japanese companies. So the US, in this example, wants their companies to be able to go out and to be competitive. They don't want to hamper the competitiveness of their companies when they're doing business abroad, because that's going to hurt the US overall, right? And so they've created a set of rules that allow them to, under a variety of circumstances, only pay tax in that other country to the extent that they're doing business in that other country. So they're still going to pay tax on their main income in, say, the US or Canada or wherever it is they're primarily operating. But they're also, on the portion of their income that's abroad, they're probably only going to pay tax there. And there's different ways that they might do this. Now, usually, this is concerning, what would happen is you would form a foreign company. Okay, so say I was a US company, say I'm Ford, again. I'm going to form Ford Germany, sell in Germany. And it's going to be owned by Ford US, okay? So Ford Germany is only going to pay tax in Germany, okay? When it brings the money back to the US, maybe in this particular, maybe it will pay tax. Depends a little bit, we get into some more complexities. So I don't want to generalize for you guys, but for example, in Canada, you could bring money back tax-free. There's something called participation exemption in a lot of cases. We won't go into that in this video. Likewise, if Ford is doing business in Japan, they're probably forming Ford Japan, which is owned by Ford US. Okay, so again, Ford Japan is not going to it's not going to pay US tax. They're only going to pay Japanese tax, is the idea. Now, the thing is, that's great. It all seems fair and logical up to this point, right? But what they realize is that they're smart. They know that companies can take advantage of this to artificially move income, right? So maybe what I decide to do is I say, hey, Ireland has a 12.5% tax rate, and the US, let's say back in the day, prior to Trump, had a 39% tax rate. So you know what, I'm gonna run most of my income through Ireland at 12.5%, or I'm gonna run it through Jersey at 0% or something. And you know what, I'm just gonna keep it there, because why would I bring it back and pay taxes on it? So they know that this sort of thing can happen. And it's especially true if you have, say, investment income, right? If I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy stocks or bonds or something like that, if I could just as easily form a company in Cayman Islands where there's no tax and buy my stocks and bonds through that company as opposed to through the US, why would I ever do it through the US, right? And it's kind of artificial. So they say, hey, look, we see that people can do this, and as a result, we're going to construct some rules that's going to prevent them from doing it, okay? And the way we're going to do that, we don't have jurisdiction to tax in this foreign country, but we're going to force them to bring that money back, whether they pay taxes or not, and then we're going to tax them on it as though they brought it back. And that's basically what Controlled Foreign Companies rules are. So they apply differently in all different parts of the world. Usually the standard is it has to be a controlling interest in that company, usually somewhere around 50%, sometimes 25%, depends by country. So for example, in Canada and the US, the threshold is 50%. So in other words, if a company is owned more than 50% by local shareholders, then that'll qualify as a CFC. And then the question is, does the income qualify? So for example, in Canada, the income qualifies only more or less under passive income, right? In the US, there was something called subpart F income. There's still something called subpart F income. They've now added something called guilty tax, and it varies by country. So depending on the country you're in, you can give us a call and talk to us, and we'll help you walk through what's important to you and making sure that you're following the appropriate rules. The thing to realize about it is you can be within these rules and usually get around those rules. So the way that they're structured, very often there's ways that you don't have to get taxed, and that's the idea. The idea is to plan your international tax so that you don't get affected by these taxes, but you're also following all the rules, which is basically what companies like Apple and Google and Microsoft and all these guys do. So I hope that helps. We will talk to you very soon. I'm going to get back to my cheers and water in Georgia.